Hi, Reality Riffing. Welcome to the Immense Grace Binge series. These are interviews that I have done in the past season, 2019-20, of great women from all over the world doing incredibly powerful, esoteric, and magical things. So I'm very excited to share with you some of these profound conversations. I am so excited to bring a conversation between me and Alessandra Belloni to you. She is a major magician and priestess of the Black Madonna cults. She is one of the foremost scholars and practitioners of some of these Black Madonna practices and chants and rhythms that have existed pre-Christianity and beyond, into how they interwove into the stories of early Christianity. She really holds this very sacred space and is a woman of great power. So I was just so honored to be able to be in her presence and be able to hear her revelations as a worshiper, a devotee of the Black Madonna. I am so honored and just overwhelmed to be joined right now on the Camp Grace virtual stage by the great wisdom keeper, Alessandra Belloni. I spoke a lot about her book, The Healing Journey of the Black Madonna, at Camp Grace, Mallorca. And I feel like we invoked you here, Alessandra. We prayed you here. So welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. I'm honored. Really wonderful.
Really
Very important in what is going on in the world that we're connecting and shift consciousness, probably.
very
If you want.
important. Yeah. And so, I mean, let's just get started. I would love to give, for anything that you want. I know it's been a journey, but just kind of how the Black Madonna found you and your relationship with that frequency and how it healed you.
Very good question, because she found me. And as you know, many times these are not things we choose ourselves. We're called to do these things as a mission. I grew up in Rome, and my mother was devoted to the Madonna. So I did grow up with that devotion. But through the years, when I started doing research on the Southern Italian folk music, theater, and dance, which is what I do with my company here in New York, I kept traveling through these beautiful, beautiful places in the south of Italy and saw in these churches incredible big statues of Black Madonnas or paintings and icons. And I didn't know what that really meant. Even though there are Black Madonnas in Rome, I wasn't aware of that. They were there just around me. But so my curiosity brought me to do deeper research. Because every time I asked a priest, why is Madonna black? Their answer was funny. It's like, she's black because she's black, or it's the candle smoke. And
Right.
I knew that couldn't be possible. So there was a time then when I got sick in the 80s, in 86, when I had already began to study them and try to figure out how I could integrate their rituals, because in Italy we honor them with drumming and dance. And I wanted to figure out a way to integrate that ceremony into my concerts and operas. And I got sick with the cancer cells of the cervix. It's called dysplasia. It's very common among women, unfortunately. And I was quite young, so I kind of I was really freaked out. And then I went for surgery, and my mother was, the book is dedicated to her. She was a great role model for sure. Came to help me when I woke up from anesthesia. I had a huge vision of the Black Madonna right above my bed with her hands out like this, sending me rays of energy, but also speaking to me and saying that I had to follow her path and to feel the pain of the earth and other people's pain. It was very real and was not a dream or anything like that. I was wide awake.
Yeah.
I wasn't bleeding, so I was really perfectly fine after the surgery. And that's when my quest began. I didn't really know what that meant, but then I said, okay, then I got to go back to Italy and just keep traveling. And that's what my book describes, that journey.
Yes. It was, I mean, we're talking now 30 plus years, right?
Yeah, uh, 34 years ago that I
Wow.
began this particular journey. I knew then that I had to write an opera in her honor, and it took 4 years of traveling through all these different places, from Rome south, Naples, Calabria, Sicily, Puglia, Abruzzo, all those regions. And it was really amazing, as I described, that one place led me to another place and then another place, following this beautiful legend from Naples, which is called the legend of the Seven Sisters,
Mm,
which is very obviously symbolic and esoteric.
yes.
And the legend, quickly I can just say they say there are seven Madonnas, were seven sisters, and the last one is believed to be the ugliest. So she ran away to hide on a very high mountain. So the people had really to look hard to find her as a sacrifice. And when they found her, they saw that she was indeed the most beautiful of all. And she was black, and they called her Mamma Schiavona, the nurturing mother, the serving mother.
Mm,
And that's the Madonna of the sacred mountain called Monte Vergine, which means Virgin Mountain, and was a sacred temple of the goddess Cibele, black goddess of the earth. And that's the one that people honor with the frame drums, that I use. And today I will be teaching that rhythm in her honor.
wow. Has it been your experience that getting into these rhythms have changed your neurology in some way?
Absolutely, yes. Well, in the beginning, I didn't realize that because I was just, as you say, I was called to do it, drawn into the ceremony. So the ceremonies last 6 to 7 hours, sometimes 8 hours at night until sunrise. So what I felt in those times was not only that I didn't get tired at all with drumming and dancing, but that I felt energized.
Yeah.
And then I kept feeling, I have experiences that I describe in the book, that the earth was alive. So the vibrations that came from underneath were so strong, and that also created an altered state of mind. So the drumming, the 4/4 rhythm or the 6/8 rhythm that we play creates an altered state of mind, for sure.
Yeah.
And then the vibration of the earth contributes to that. And these are all ancient sacred places. So the ancient people in pre-Christian times knew where to build these temples to the goddesses. They were important points of the earth. And they all knew that she's a living being, that she can breathe, think. So the worship of the Black Madonna, I really care to say that now because of the situation we're in,
Yeah.
connects to that, to the Earth Mother as a living being. And unfortunately, in the last years, we have hurt her a lot.
Yeah.
And that has to shift.
Yeah. And do you feel that this kind of rising, I feel more than ever, this rising of the Black Madonna frequency, this consciousness is part of the healing, that crisis that we're in right now?
Absolutely, yes. I've been called to do a video. I don't know if you have seen it, but I felt very strongly. So I have been talking about what's happening today, unfortunately, with premonitions for 15 years on stage. People who know my company, and they've seen a particular scene that we stage, which is a healing trance dance and drumming ritual for the Black Madonna from the Middle Ages that was done in the time of the plague. So in those times, in Europe, but especially the south of Italy, people believed that by doing, this connects also to the previous question, by doing these circular dances and spinning in the direction of the northern hemisphere, this was done unconsciously, but that's what it is. By spinning and drumming the 6/8 rhythm, they really, and these are proven. There are proven stories written in all these churches. They succeeded to stop the plague from coming into their villages. So they took out the statue, drummed, and danced. So I've been feeling this for a long time. I staged it. We have a dancer on stilts who plays the Black Death, the plague, and we come out with the Madonna and do this circular dance and this rhythm. And I always say that too on stage, that this was done before this happened, that I would say we're back in the Middle Ages, we're living with this fear, and if we don't stop hurting the Earth Mother, we're gonna really have to stop and call her back to save us. And so I feel that her presence now, if we acknowledge this globally, is really important, because that's what she represents. She can heal us, but we need to show that respect and to shift what we were doing up to now that doesn't work.
Yeah.
It really doesn't work the way we're living.
Wow. I mean, I know that you're a prophetic artist, and I think that at least, I read, I mean, I can feel, but also I read some of your descriptions of how some of this kind of prophetic stuff has come through your art over the years, and it's very profound.
Thank you. It's interesting to have that gift. I'm sure, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not, because I feel a lot of pain. So when I created this video as a collective healing chant, dance, and prayer to the Black Madonna to stop the plague now, I had this really very strange experience in my apartment. I live on the river in New Jersey, across from Manhattan. It's very quiet here. At night, in the middle of the night, I felt all these voices coming in as if they were doing the rosary in a church. And it's really strong. Then I looked outside in the balcony. Of course, there's nobody there. Then it stopped, and then I came back, and it was moaning. I really felt people across the river were dying, and that was really real. And then I thought, I called up a friend who's actually a gypsy and a clairvoyant, and then I decided to go to bed. And on my phone, before I turned it off, that chant, Cum tisimus concanentes, the healing prayer that I was describing from the Middle Ages, appeared on my phone from YouTube, and two versions that I didn't know people did of me and the Black Madonna. And so I felt, okay, she wants me to do this, and I was really obsessed to put this video together, which is, one thing is to write the book or perform, but now we're using Zoom, and I worked really hard with my artists, and we all did it. And I think it's very powerful.
Wow.
And people have been watching it and really receiving this message. So that's what I feel we need to do at this time as artists.
Yeah. Do you, I mean, what I know that you kind of followed the Black Madonna mythos into ISIS and into Africa, and where did that take you?
So the first thing that I learned when I was really in the depth of these ceremonies and doing library and field research, I studied a book that I think is really important, The Cult of the Black Virgin by Imbag, who he lists many Madonnas, and then he started to talk about the worship to Isis from Egypt and how she is directly connected to that, and that's Africa. And they made a lot of sense. So in one region near Naples, that I describe a lot in the book in chapter 5 with Our Lady of Freedom, La Madonna della Libera, that area was a settlement of the ancient Egyptians. There are still temples to the goddess Isis there. They didn't destroy them, thank God they're there. And it's a magical part of the earth. And it's the area that it's known for witchcraft, but also for magic. So that's the connotation given by the Christian church. But the esoteric teachings of the ancient Egyptians that worshipped Isis are still practiced in this area where Isis was very present. The other goddesses that were worshipped in that area and then all over the south of Italy are Cybele, originated from Anatolia, Turkey, the legend of the black meteorite that fell from the stars and carved into the statue. And then the goddess of the moon, Diana, from Ephesus, and that's a beautiful big black statue with many breasts, and that statue is actually in Naples in the museum. And then the goddess of the underworld, Hecate, very important in our ancient history of south of Italy, was called Magna Graecia. And Aphrodite is the one that I love very much, the goddess of love and sea, Venus, connected to the African Yoruba tradition of Yemanja and Oshun. So in my book, each chapter I speak about these Madonnas, the goddess that they are connected to. And my conclusion is Africa, the mother of all, where we come from. And so right now, we are in that situation where we also have to honor that.
And so, as you've kind of moved, through these years, do you have what is your kind of daily experience of this connection? Has it become more etheric, or, I mean, you're describing something just happened in terms of her coming to you in like a more uh, exclamated way, but your relationship become, how has the relationship grown or changed over the years as you've become a devotee?
I'm really more and more devoted. And I wake up with the prayers of the Black Madonna every day, and my whole apartment is an altar, my bedroom, my living room. Because as I travel, of course, I buy more statues, more paintings, and I collect them. So daily, I pray to her, in the day and at night, and that's my own personal devotion. I also honor her in nature. I live by the river, so I go there to offer flowers. Like also, Oshun is a representation of the Black Madonna. But then when she comes to me to speak with things that I'm supposed to do, it's totally unexpected.
Yeah.
Those messages just come. I have no control. And it took me time to understand, and that's how I created my book, which is here, that I had to surrender to her will, that she would show me the way to publish the book that I've been working on for years. And now it's the film that I want to create about her based on the book. And then that's an exercise that I have to do daily, because it's not easy to surrender and to let go of your ego and control. I feel like I
Yeah.
need to control this, I have to do this, I have to do. When I surrender, that she shows me a whole different way.
Yes. And I mean, I think one of the things that is so deep about some of these practices that we're going to be practicing with you, but I want to hear your experience and receive your experiences, that the kind of in the dancing and the rhythms and the frequency of the mantras, and that there's a real Shakti, like incarnate kind of experience. Can you describe some of that, especially in the dancing? And I'm just curious, like, I know these are giving words to the indescribable, but
As you know, because you read it probably, there is the other tradition that's connected to the Black Madonna. It's the dance of the Tarantella.
yeah,
It's not the silly wedding dance that people think of in America. It's a very erotic, wild, sensual dance that goes back to the rites of Dionysus and the women Bacchus and the goddess Cybele. So the connection between the spider dance, that I call it, is the people in pre-Christian time danced ecstatic rites in honor of both Dionysus and Cybele. In the south of Italy, which was part of Greece, this tradition has never stopped, and that's really unique of our culture. Still practiced with Christian names, but it's still done. So what I experience it, and I try to, and I think I succeed to bring it to other women, especially, is a healing from the dance. So after I had that experience, that I had surgery and I began the sacred path of the Black Madonna. 4 years late, 4 years later, I got sick again, and then I was bleeding, and of course, I was very scared. But then I really felt again a voice telling me you have to dance. So I danced the Pizzica Tarantata, which is the name is Pizzica is bite. Tarantata is a woman afflicted by the bite of the tarantula. I danced in concert, but I did it to heal. The bleeding stopped immediately, never came back, and then I was fine ever since. And that led me to now to do these workshops that I do with drumming and dance, where I teach others how to heal through this dance. Again, it's not simple because it's many hours
yeah,
of, so you have to really be willing to let go. And my gift that I accept now, I didn't accept it before, is the fact that I have this shamanic gift of playing the tambourine for 4 or 5 hours and help people come out of trauma. So I first experienced that dance myself before I tried with others. And then the first people were women who had cysts. The cysts disappeared. And then from then on, a lot of people came to me who've been traumatized by abuse. And it's always been successful.
Wow.
I don't have a scientific explanation. The most
Wow.
important is that it works, right?
Amazing. This is the part where you just, in the current kind of cognitive and what we've been entrained about in terms of how we look at the world and our bodies and stuff. This is this kind of understanding of the way Shakti moves and heals, especially these deep wounds of trauma, is just so amazing.
And plus there is a connection between the south of Italy and the Indian culture, that Dionysus is also believed to be Shiva, and the scale that we use, mostly the Neapolitan scale, the Lydian scale, I know because my flutist Steve Goran plays Indian music, it's a raga.
It's a
It's an Indian.
raga.
But I play with him, and then there is a sitar player that works with us from time to time. They're both amazing musicians. Neil, I don't remember the name of the raga, but we
Yeah.
have mostly it's an Indian raga. I mean,
Wow.
you would probably know it.
Well, I don't know that much about raga, but I know the yogic science around the harmonics of the raga, which means basically you're taking the solar energy in and transmuting it into like ga, like into earth energy. It's like heaven to earth energy. That's the harmonics of the raga, any raga. And so that's very fascinating.
It's the same principle. Those harmonics of the Lydian scale.
Wow. Wow.
Yes, in the pre-Christian times, even Pythagoras speaks about that scale, how it had the power of calming the mind and helping people to let go. I guess we could say let go of the ego. So people who suffer trauma receive, as you said, these harmonics. Again, it's not scientifically, I think right now a lot of people are trying to prove this scientifically.
Yeah.
I can tell you what happens when Steve Gaun plays the flutes and those scales and he's playing a raga, then he goes into our chant, then he goes back to the raga. I can see what happens, to people. It just receive that divine information, and that's it. Really immediate healing. It works, it really works well, especially if people are sad. You could see how everyone shifts.
Yeah. Yeah. And where does the kind of grandmother spider fit into all of this? Like, I found that really fascinating that it's this kind of spider, kind of,
A little bit quickly the legend or our culture with the spider.
yeah.
So every indigenous culture I realize, has a spider myth, and it's usually a creation myth. Ours is a bit different. In the Greek myth, which is also Southern Italian, is Arachne, was a beautiful princess from Athens and a virgin, very skilled weaver of the land, and she was admired by everyone. And people thought she learned from the goddess Athena, which is a very important goddess of wisdom, war, and weaving. So Arachne was very proud, and she said no, she didn't learn from the goddess. She was better than the goddess, and challenged the goddess to a weaving contest. Arachne won. Athena was not very happy about that and hit her over the head and destroyed the linen that Arachne wove in 1,000 pieces. And Arachne, taken by really, desperation, committed suicide and hung herself from a tree. Athena, as they say, taken by pity, transformed her into a spider, condemning her to weave her web forever. And the myth continues that other women from Athens were taken by a suicide mania, and that finally this stopped when the prophetess of of Delphi, La Sibilla, but we also had a prophetess in Naples, the Cuman Sibyl. And the Sibyl spoke and said that the women had to be free of and knowledge and embody the god Dionysus, freed of their sexuality, and the suicide mania would stop. Because Arachne died as a virgin, she never knew love. So it's believed that she was biting in the subconscious mind the other women. So it's a bite that is a metaphor.
Yeah.
It's a very complex myth, by the way.
Yeah.
But it's a bite of love, of repression of sexuality, and also of humiliation and not being able to be free. So that's the web, people can web, and then you gotta break the web. So that's the origin of our dance. So the tarantella originated from the ecstatic dances of Dionysus, connected to Shiva, by the way.
Wow.
That a lot of books about that. I didn't, go as deep as I would like to, because I've never been to India, but I'm very curious. Because we have that connection, Shiva and Kali, the Black Madonna.
Yes, yes.
I've never been there, so I can't, until I go there, I don't want to say I know. But anyway, that's the connection. So women danced in ecstasy to honor Dionysus and let go, and they were in charge of their sexuality. They lived freely in the woods, running around as they wished, playing instruments, inviting men in their rituals, but they were in control. The men were not. That's the difference. But of course, with Christianity, in about 300 years, these rites disappeared, and then our dance evolved as the tarantella to get rid of the venom of the tarantula. Very smart.
Yeah. Wow.
They all said, we were beaten, we have the poison, we have to dance it out. And the dance is erotic, but that was not forbidden because it was a malady.
Right, right. So it was kind of covered in that, for the Christian sake. Interesting.
But that's only the south of Italy, so you know that in north of Rome, that was not practiced.
Yeah, yeah. It was just the more southern part, right?
Also Rome, where I'm from, I was born in that area just by accident. The area where the Bacchantes celebrated. San Giovanni. It's very interesting. It took me some years to figure that out. I was born right in the middle of this.
So, yeah, by accident. I'm curious what you think. I found this to be fascinating with your work around the Sibyl. In our tradition, we look at the Sibyl or the oracle. A lot of these frequencies are actually they're snake frequencies. They're Naga is what we call them, the Naga.
I didn't know. Thanks, you.
So Naga means no go, where nothing can go, the Naga can go. And like the oracle at Delphi and many places all over the earth, there are these they're holding these kind of Naga, these snake queen kind of frequencies. Obviously in Egypt, but in many other places as well. Just curious, like what your about the Sibyl and the oracles and that what. Anything for you there?
I didn't know this about what you just spoke about. I find it beautiful. I spent a lot of time in the cave of the Sibyl near Naples, in Cuma, without knowing too much. I know what I studied in school, right? So what you studied Latin, I read Virgil and all these things. But until I went there, and I speak about it in that chapter, my experience there was, first of all, it's under the earth, so you got to go down. And this cave was only found in 1937. So for centuries, nobody knew this mythical cave where it was. So my experience was walking through this tunnel was kind of, I see it more as a shamanic journey. Like, if you do a shamanic journey, you have to go through 7 initiations. These are 7 chambers excavated in the depth of the earth.
Wow.
As I know there, when I went, there were no snakes, but all around, we still have snakes there. But not inside that cave.
Thank God.
But all around, yes, there are snakes everywhere.
Yeah.
And but the smaller, the Mediterranean. But when I sat there at the final chamber, when it really hit me, and I started chanting, and the echo was unbelievable. Like, I know there is no recording studio that could ever reproduce that sound. And how did they know that? So that, to me, that Cebu, especially that location, I haven't visited the others, is based on the voice. What I felt was really the voice of the earth. The oracle spoke and sat there. So there were women priestesses that entered a trance state of mind, that spoke and gave out these prophecies. Those women did exist as priestesses. But what I really felt, my personal experience, was the sound coming from the earth. That the priestess embodied that. The voice, prophetic voice, was from the underworld, not from above, from the underworld. In that location, it's closed now. They don't allow people in there. So there's a tunnel when you go back out from the 7 chambers. That tunnel goes down and ends in a lake called Lago di Averno that was believed to be the entrance to the underworld described by the poet Virgil and then later on Dante Alighieri. So they all acknowledge the Sibyl as the prophetess, as voice from the underworld. I don't know directly with the snakes, but we do know the snakes are directly connected to the earth and the underworld.
Yeah.
So in certain churches, you see that. You would see the snake and the women gods. In Italy, you see that. But I didn't know there was that direct connection with the Sibyl, but probably makes perfect sense.
Wow.
I have now got yes. There are 9 Sibyls in the history that I learned. So there are some represented, with their book and snakes around them. I'll go back and look.
Wow. Wow. And for those who are just new to this, will you explain a little bit what the Sibyls are?
They're prophetess oracles. In our tradition, is the prophetess of the underworld, Asibilla Kumana, especially Eritrea. So there is a myth around them. What I found in my research is there were priestesses, women, not men, initiated in the mysteries of the goddess. There's still mysteries. I'm rereading certain things right now. There's still mysteries, from Eleusi, but most of them originated in Africa. So that's something that has been recently acknowledged, that there is an African tradition of the women priestesses. That's why a lot of them are represented Black.
Right.
The Christian church has kind of decided to make them a little whiter. Each restoration of a painting, they decided. But many of them were Black. So again, there's these roots from Africa, Egypt, Ethiopia, where there were the oracles and they were really important. Like in our culture in Rome, they won the war against Hannibal because they consulted the Sibyl, and the oracle told them what to do to build a statue for the goddess Cybele and do certain, ceremonies, worship in order to win the war. And they did. So they were really important. All the emperors went to them, asked their opinion, consulted them, and did what they say. Unfortunately, those books, I Libri Sibillini, were burnt. There's very little left.
Wow.
By the Christian church.
Yeah.
Very little left. Some are, in Latin, but they had an incredible knowledge and for thousands of years.
And so do you feel that, obviously we touched on this earlier, but is there anything that, as we're going into ceremony with you over the next days, how would you best tell the women to kind of set their intention and connect with this monument that I feel that we're basically resurrecting right now in terms of our worship of this frequency?
There's many ways. I hope that the people who join us, the women, will feel the power of the frame drum that I use. That's an ancient instrument used by these women priestesses that I'm describing. They did pray and chanted to the moon, to the earth, to the water, honoring the goddesses, the Sibyl, with that drum. And I would love for many people, as many people as possible, women, to really go back to that instrument, because it has that power of connecting not only to the spirit world, the underworld, but it does affect directly our heart chakra. So if you're experiencing grief, sadness, without thinking, that sound will open it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you know more about chakras than I do because I work in a different tradition. At the same time that it goes directly, you'll see the style we play, into your solar plexus and pelvis. So the movement of the dance with the drum releases blockages that are here. And for people who suffer trauma, that's huge. If you let the drum do that, you release that trauma. So I feel that one thing that is not complicated to do is to practice that, keep that as a practice. And keep opening your heart chakra, letting go of grief, sadness. And if you have experienced traumatic things in your life, really let it out through the drumming and through the movement. And the voice, because chanting is very important.
Yes.
To free your throat and speak it out and let it go to the divine feminine.
And these mantras,
What I said, does it make sense?
it makes total sense. I feel the everything in it. These mantras are so beautiful, and they're all kind of sound currents that you collected from these different kind of Black Madonna cults or worship practices.
Yeah, I learned a lot from old people and traveling down south in Italy, and then I composed my own now, inspired by the old traditional chants.
Wow.
And I think that's for everybody. You know, you study something traditional, then you can compose something new.
Yeah.
Continue.
Yeah.
And I'm blessed that I work with very good musicians, so they also inspire me to do that.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait till we can in person practice the tarantella and some of these other practices with you. But we are very excited to do this healing work with you and work with these very deep and ancient rhythms. So thank you very much.
And I thank you. It's a great opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Reality Riffing. These are conversations that I think are important with people who are doing great things in the world about subject matters that need to be discussed. If you enjoyed the content, the conversation, please feel free to share with your people, share with your friends and family, rate the podcast below, and also subscribe.